Have you ever thought that by offering raw meat to your dog or cat, you may be making silent mistakes that affect their health in the long run? Many owners start the BARF diet full of good intentions, but fall into hidden traps that lead to nutritional deficiencies, bone problems, allergies, contamination, and even serious diseases. In this video, we reveal the 7 most common mistakes in raw natural food, and show, step by step, how to avoid them. You will understand the importance of balancing meat, bones, organs, vegetables, and fats, in addition to essential care with hygiene, variety, and consistency in the diet. Your pet's health depends on what you put in the jar. Find out now how to turn raw food into a true ally of longevity and well-being. Watch to the end, subscribe to the channel. The transition to raw, natural food is one of the most important steps a pet owner can take to transform their dog or cat's health. But what seems simple at first glance, just offering raw meat instead of food, hides subtle, almost invisible errors that can compromise not only the nutrients of the meal, but also long-term health. It is precisely here that many tutors make mistakes without realizing it. Throughout this narrative, we will delve into each of these mistakes, exploring in a cinematic way the backstage of animal nutrition, understanding the consequences, and above all, learning how to avoid them. Imagine a first-time tutor. He researches BARF, gets excited about reports of more active dogs, shiny coats, and even stories of cats that have stopped suffering from constant vomiting. But when putting it into practice, he believes that it is enough to buy raw meat at the supermarket, cut it into pieces, and put it in the jar. This is the first big hidden mistake, the absence of nutritional balance. The body of dogs and cats is moved by very specific proportions of proteins, fats, minerals, and vitamins. In the wild, when a wolf or wild cat hunts, they consume practically the entire animal. Muscles, bones, cartilage, organs, and even part of the stomach contents of the prey. This variety ensures a perfect balance of nutrients. When the tutor offers only muscle meat, chicken breast, ground duckling, or soft drumstick, he is giving a food rich in protein, yes, but low in calcium, fiber, and a series of micronutrients that only appear in bones and organs. The result may be silent in the first few months, but it manifests itself in bone fragility, weaker teeth, and even heart problems. The scene deepens when we realize the second hidden error, the excess of bones or the incorrect choice of them. Many tutors, when reading about the importance of calcium, rush to offer chicken wings, cooked bones, or fragments that seem safe. But the risk is immense. Cooked bones become brittle, creating shrapnel that can puncture the digestive tract. Excess raw bones, on the other hand, cause severe constipation with rock-hard stools, capable of causing pain, bleeding, and even obstructions. The recommended balance is clear. Between 10 and 15% of the raw diet should come from raw, fleshy bones, chosen with discretion, such as chicken necks or whole wings, always raw and fresh. The third hidden error arises in the detail of variety. Many tutors settle for a single protein, chicken, because it is cheap and easy, but dogs and cats weren't born to feed on a single source of meat. This food monotony leads to 2 dangers: nutritional deficiencies and increased risk of allergies. In the long term, an organism exposed daily to the same protein can develop intolerances, manifested in constant itching, recurrent otitis, and skin inflammation. The solution is rotation: cattle, poultry, fish, lamb, and even rabbit, if possible, creating a cycle that guarantees a diversity of amino acids and micronutrients. While exploring these mistakes, it is impossible to ignore the fourth: the contempt for hygiene and correct handling of food. Unlike industrial feed, which goes through thermal and chemical processes, raw feed depends entirely on human handling. And here lies the invisible risk: bacterial contamination. Meat stored incorrectly, thawed at room temperature, or handled on dirty surfaces can be a gateway to salmonella and E. coli, not only for the pet, but for the whole family. Studies show that in homes where hygiene is not taken seriously, there is a higher incidence of cross-contamination, putting even young children at risk. Therefore, each step must be followed as a ritual. Freeze in individual portions, defrost slowly in the refrigerator, sanitize countertops and utensils, wash hands before and after contact. At this point, we begin to realize that BARF is not just a matter of offering raw meat. It is a science that unites natural instinct and human knowledge. And it is precisely the lack of this knowledge that leads to the 5th mistake: ignoring the internal organs. Liver, kidney, heart, and spleen are nature's true pharmacy. They concentrate fat-soluble vitamins, rare minerals, and enzymes that are fundamental for the animal's vitality. But because they are strong-smelling foods and often difficult to find, tutors tend to replace them or eliminate them from the menu. The result? Animals that appear superficial health, shiny fur, high energy, but that inside accumulate silent deficiencies, capable of resulting in anemia, neurological changes, or even seizures. A 6th hidden mistake that needs to be revealed is the carelessness with the fat ratio. Fat is vital energy for dogs and cats, and its absence leads to dull coats, hair loss, and lack of vitality. But excess is equally harmful. It can trigger pancreatitis, obesity, and chronic inflammation. Fat cannot be treated as a villain, but as a calculated ingredient. It transports vitamins such as A, D, E, and K, and ensures that the body makes the most of the nutrients present. The mistake is in offering totally lean meats, removing any sign of fat, or, at the opposite extreme, exaggerating fatty cuts such as chicken skin in excess. The balance should be around 15 to 20% of the meal, always varying according to the pet's age, weight, and activity level. And finally, in this first dive, we come to the 7th hidden mistake: despising vegetables and fiber. It is true that dogs and cats are carnivores in essence, but that does not mean that their body rejects vegetables. In the wild, part of what they consume comes from the stomach contents of herbivorous prey. This fiber is essential for intestinal balance, working as food for beneficial bacteria and as a regulator of digestion. When tutors leave vegetables out, either out of laziness, ignorance, or because they believe that they are not needed, they end up generating colds, frequent diarrhea, and even immune imbalance. Vegetables such as pumpkin, carrots, and spinach, when lightly crushed or steamed, provide fiber and powerful antioxidants, completing the meal in a natural way. By putting these 7 hidden mistakes together, it's clear that raw eating isn't just about giving meat. It requires attention, knowledge, and above all, respect for the balance of nature. Every mistake, no matter how small it may seem, opens a fissure for serious problems. And each hit strengthens not only the body, but the entire life of the animal. The impact of these mistakes only becomes really visible when we look at the stories of owners who started natural eating with the best intentions, but without the proper knowledge. Many report enthusiasm in the first months, since the simple removal of ultra-processed food brings rapid changes, a high energy, reduction of bad breath, less bulky stools. However, in silence, the animal's body accumulates imbalances. This is the most insidious aspect of hidden errors. They don't appear immediately, but appear months or even years later when the damage is already profound. Let's resume each of them, now under a practical lens, with clear examples and solutions that can be applied in the daily life of any tutor. The first mistake, lack of nutritional balance, manifests itself more frequently in puppies. It is common to see tutors offering only raw chicken breast, believing that this is enough. The chick grows quickly, but inside it suffers from a lack of calcium and phosphorus, essential for bones and teeth. The result is crooked legs, motor difficulties, and, in extreme cases, spontaneous fractures. The solution is to plan proportions: muscle meat, raw fleshy bones, organs, and a small vegetable fraction. This math is not flexible. It is the basis of health. The second mistake, excess or wrong choice of bones, may seem trivial, but it has already led many animals to veterinary emergencies. Imagine a tutor who gives cooked rib bones, believing that he is strengthening his dog's teeth. Hours later, the dog has vomiting blood and intense abdominal pain. X-ray reveals intestinal perforation. That is why the recommendation is non-negotiable. Always raw bones, never fragmented, never cooked, and always with meat around, which reduces the risk of choking and injury. The third mistake, lack of protein variety, generates more slippery problems. A cat fed exclusively with chicken may seem healthy at first, but after months it begins to compulsively lick its paws until it creates wounds. The veterinarian discovers an allergic dermatitis related to the single protein. Variety is not a luxury, it is a biological necessity. A simple rotation, beef 1 week, chicken the next, fresh fish occasionally, already drastically reduces the chances of intolerance. The fourth mistake, neglected hygiene, exposes not only the pet, but the whole family. Studies carried out in the United States have shown that in homes where owners handle raw meat without proper care, even doorknobs and switches were contaminated by salmonella. This bacteria, while often not affecting healthy adult dogs, can be devastating in puppies, seniors, or house humans. The rule is clear: organized freezer, disinfected surfaces, hands washed rigorously. Preparing BARF is no less serious than preparing food for a child. The fifth mistake, absence of organs, harms the body in almost invisible ways. The liver, for example, concentrates vitamin A at levels that no other food provides. The lack of this vitamin generates night vision problems and immune weakening. The heart, in turn, is the main source of taurine, a vital amino acid for cats, the absence of which can cause dilated cardiomyopathy, a serious and potentially fatal condition. Neglecting organs is like erasing the body's pharmacies. The solution is simple. About 5 to 10% of the diet should be made up of organs, ranging from liver, kidney, and heart. The sixth mistake, mismatch in the amount of fat, has dramatic consequences. An elderly dog, when given an excessively fatty diet, can develop pancreatitis, a painful and high-risk condition. Animals with too thin diets, on the other hand, have lethargy, dry skin, and loss of shine in the fur. Fat should be measured, not eliminated. Conscious tutors adjust the menu according to the pet's condition. Active dogs need more energy, while sedentary dogs require more controlled cuts. The seventh mistake, ignoring vegetables and fiber, often goes unnoticed because dogs and cats can survive without them. But surviving is not the same as thriving. Animals that receive adequate plant fibers have better intestinal flora, absorb nutrients better, and have more balanced immunity. A practical example, dogs with chronic constipation improve significantly by including small portions of steamed and crushed pumpkin in their diet. By understanding these points, we realize that BARF is not improvisation. It needs to be treated as a precise formula, in which each ingredient plays an irreplaceable role. It is precisely this precision that differentiates a therapeutic diet from a nutritional trap. But there is still a detail that many ignore, the consistency of the tutor. The rush of everyday life leads some to temporarily return to feed, mixing methods, breaking the logic of the body's adaptation. This inconsistency generates digestive imbalance, diarrhea crises, and food rejection. The animal's intestine needs routine, not sudden experiments. To truly understand how to avoid the 7 hidden mistakes of raw food, we now need to turn each warning into practice. The theory only comes to life when it translates into simple actions, which can be repeated daily by the tutor. And the good news is that when the right method is adopted from the beginning, natural eating ceases to be an enigma and becomes a healthy, predictable, and highly rewarding ritual. The first step is to understand that nutritional balance is not a detail, but the basis. The raw diet should be structured in such a way as to respect proportions. Approximately 70% muscle meat, 10 to 15% raw fleshy bones, 5 to 10% organs, especially liver and heart, and the rest composed of crushed vegetables. By following this formula, you avoid calcium deficiency, lack of fat-soluble vitamins, and bone problems that usually appear in animals that receive only lean cuts from the supermarket. The second point is to apply rigor in the choice and offer of raw bones. Never cooked, never in small, loose pieces, but always fresh, raw, and appropriate to the size of the animal. A medium-sized dog can receive chicken necks, wings, or carcasses that, in addition to being nutritious, strengthen the teeth and satisfy the chewing instinct. For cats, the portions need to be smaller, such as quail wings or rabbit fragments, always monitored to avoid accidents. The key word here is moderation. Excess bones do not strengthen, they only harm. The third practical action is to cultivate the variety of proteins. This may seem difficult at first, but it is enough to organize a weekly cycle. For example, 3 days of chicken, 2 days of beef, 1 day of fish, and 1 day of lamb. This rotation not only prevents allergies and intolerances, but also maintains the animal's interest in food. Monotony of food is the enemy of health and vitality. In the field of hygiene, discipline must be almost ritualistic. Freeze individual portions in clean packages, thaw slowly in the refrigerator, never at room temperature, and sanitize surfaces frequently. The tutor must see the kitchen as a laboratory. Everything clean, everything controlled. This practice protects not only the animal, but the entire family, preventing the silent spread of bacteria such as Salmonella and E. coli. Regarding internal organs, the strategy is simple. Never ignore them. 5% of the diet should come from the liver, and another 5% divided between heart, kidney, or spleen. A practical example, in a meal of 300 grams, about 15 grams should be liver, another 15 grams heart or kidney, and the rest distributed among muscle meat, bones, and vegetables. This math ensures vitality, neurological health, and a more resilient immune system. The fifth essential care is with a proportion of fat. Fat should represent between 15 and 20% of the diet, adjusted to the animal's profile. For active, running, or working dogs, energy from fat is essential. For obese animals or those predisposed to pancreatitis, the amount must be controlled with leaner cuts without excess skin. The secret is in balance, neither demonize nor exaggerate. The sixth point is the inclusion of vegetables and fiber. They are not meat substitutes, but complements that regulate the body. Pumpkin, carrots, spinach, broccoli, and even small amounts of fruit, such as seedless apples, can be crushed and mixed into the meal. For cats, which are stricter carnivores, the proportion should be lower but never ignored. These vegetables work as natural prebiotics, feeding the intestinal flora and strengthening the digestive system. The seventh and final care is with consistency. The raw diet requires routine. It is not a matter of feeding today with BARF, tomorrow with industrial feed, and then going back to the natural. The animal's body needs constant adaptation. Sudden changes destabilize the intestinal flora and make room for inflammation. Consistency is the link between theory and actual results. It is this that allows us to see, in the brightness of the coat and in the daily energy, the fruits of discipline. When all these points are respected, raw food is no longer just a fad or a curiosity and becomes preventive medicine. Dogs and cats fed with correctly structured BARF have a lower risk of chronic diseases, age with more quality, and maintain vigor for much longer. The tutor who avoids the 7 hidden mistakes is, in fact, building a lifetime of health for his animal. With each meal, it not only nourishes the pet's body, but reinforces the bond of trust and care. After all, nothing is more powerful than turning the food routine into an act of conscious love. The journey begins with the choice of ingredients, continues with careful preparation, and is completed in the look of the animal, which returns silent gratitude at each meal. In the end, avoiding mistakes is not just about technique. It's about respect. Respect for nature, biology, and above all, for the life that depends on us.